Hi, I'm Jonna McCooey.
And I'm Amy Olds.
And we're back with Fairport Forward.
Da-da-da.
We are here today to talk about charm. What a fun topic.
Charm. When you talk to anyone about visiting Fairport, or when I tell folks I just got a new job in Fairport, downtown Fairport, it's, so charming. It's one of the first words that comes out of everyone's mouth. Oh, how lucky you are to get to work there. And I agree with them. And as this episode will demonstrate, a whole lot of other folks do too.
Definitely. We are here to talk about charm and character, really. It's a fun topic because we have a charming village, and we're going to talk about what does charming really mean. It's a hard thing to describe because charm is kind of a vibe.
It is. It's a vibe.
Has a lot of charming vibes.
Yes.
And it's that intangible feel that makes people go like, oh, I love Fairport. But as intangible as it may be, you have to be conscientious about how you manage it, especially when you're talking about the things that we do from an economic development perspective, a business and community growth perspective. We want to keep our village charming and we want to maintain the character, but we have to do that in a way that helps us move forward.
You can't remain stagnant. That's not really what I don't think anyone really is looking for. They're just looking for smart growth choices that allow Fairport to maintain and preserve and protect that charm.
Yes, exactly. So before we get into some of those real tools as to how do we manage charm, let's talk about the survey, of course. The reason we're talking about charm and character, last episode we talked about parking because we had a number of comments about parking. But really the underlying theme through all comments, as we talked about in the first episode, is keep Fairport, maintain our character, maintain our charm. And so today we're going to dig into that, and that'll help us set up for some of the other topics we'll talk about in the series.
Yes. So I would like to share a couple of real comments. These are straight from the comments that I think really illustrate what a lot of folks were feeling. First one, Fairport. It's a beautiful little village, and that's why many of us moved here. I want to keep it that way and make changes carefully. So I thought that was well thought out. And then another one, as we move forward, let's do so with care and a clear focus on the needs of our community members and the local institutions that sustain us. So I think, to me, that means that the goal is, as much as parking was mentioned the most, charm is something that I think extends across all of the things that we're going to talk about. Like every topic that we will dive into cannot move forward without protecting the charm.
Yes, that makes sense. What I liked about both of those comments that you chose is that it highlights that care and our need to be good stewards of the character and the charm, but also both of them were forward-looking. We're thinking about, yes, we care about this, but that doesn't mean, like you said, do nothing. And so it's really about a lot of the things we talk about. It's a balance, and we do want to grow. We do want to move forward. And when I say grow, I think that just means maintain our vibrancy. You used the word stagnant. I think that's a great way to characterize it. We aren't talking about, when we say growth, building more things and packing more people in.
But we don't want to get left behind.
Yes, exactly. We were recently reading an article from the village historian, and it had a picture about traffic over the lift bridge. But the interesting thing about it was that the population from 100 years
ago,
was only about 500, than the population today. So we have a village that is only 1.8 square miles large. So growth means like life, vibrancy, and those kinds of things. And how do we maintain our charm while maintaining our vibrancy as a village?
Yes, exactly. And see, something that you said about not remaining stagnant, but being more progressive in our look to the future. The idea that the choices we're making now will contribute to the future charm of the village. So that's something I think we'll dive into a little deeper. But that concept of we have to make choices now, and that charm isn't accidental. And it definitely is easier to lose than to protect. So we think we all have the same goals in mind. Now, how we attain that, those are where some of the opinions differ.
Yes. Well, the great thing about this podcast is it lets us talk about the opinions, talk about, the feelings, but also lets us look at what are all those options and how we can use them in ways that best suit our village. We know, being in Fairport every day, what we mean when we say Fairport is charming. But if we zoom out a little bit in general, let's talk about what are some of the components of charm and what does that really mean other than like, hey, it's a cool vibe.
Yeah. I mean, for me, a lot of it is the Main Street feeling of walking down and seeing, multiple cute boutiques with their windows dressed for the season. It's things like Moonlight Creamery, tucked back in behind a couple of trees and the winding pathways that bring you there. It's kind of whimsical almost. The canal frontage that we have in Fairport particularly, that fresh canal scent and air. It just, the water gives off a soothing vibe. Like all those things contribute their own little piece. So the experience of walking down Main Street, having trees, having flowers, hanging pots, that the right lampposts that just feel right. Trying to think what else.
Let's not forget about our small businesses.
Yes,
right. Every cute little bookstore, charming boutique. We have one of the most recent stores, and we have so many great stores. I know it's hard to leave any out, but a really more recent one is the yoga spiritual.
Oh, Sunrise. Yeah, they were very new.
It's just so unique and different and fits right into the fabric of the village.
It does.
And you won't find one at the mall. And you'll find maybe similar boutiques, but that is a unique offering in Fairport.
Yes, and not just the offerings, but the fact that the shop owners really are all in. They immerse themselves in the culture of Fairport.
The counter all in.
Yes. Yeah.
Most of the time when you walk into one of the stores or boutiques, you are talking to the owner behind the counter. You're hearing about their own story and how they got to opening that store. And most of them did something else. And this is a passion for them, a dream. Like, I always wanted to open a bookstore. Yeah, I've always wanted to sell. I had a great toy collection when I was a kid. Oh, now I'm selling these toys out the basement.
Yeah, and we'll get into it even more. But Fairport is a village that has in many ways enables that to happen, and that's through the choices of, as we'll say later, many, many, many entities. It's not just coincidence. It's not that you could go anywhere and open up that shop and be successful. Fairport is a great place for that. For reasons that we will dive into. But I think that leads into the whole charm isn't maybe so tangible, but experiential.
Yes. So exactly. The experience of charm. We talked about you're talking to the boutique owner when you go into the store. You talked about walking down Main Street. But the walk itself is charming when all of the historic buildings. Yeah. That boutique is in a historic building that was a hotel 100 years ago.
Yeah.
On your walk, you run into someone you know.
Yep.
And you see maybe someone walking their dog, and you see a mom with a stroller, and the whole scene is charming.
Yes.
So
all of those things add together.
Experience, walking down that Main Street, having a walkable Main Street, and then the things you experience along the way.
Walkability is a big part of it. No one's ever going to be like, hey, I'm driving down this highway with the retail strip plazas on the side of me and say, this is so charming. Like, that's just not, that is not an adjective used to describe that. So, the vibes in Fairport. I'm going to come. I like this vibes theme. The vibes are good.
Yeah. So, and we do talk a lot about Main Street, of course, but the whole village is an area where we focus on charm. So,
we should talk about some of the other stuff, like the front doors and porches and all of our houses really embrace that charming village feel. The style architecturally of our homes, here at OCED, to your point, we have a front porch grant for homeowners who need help to make improvements to their front porch.
Rehabilitate or build a front porch because we want to emphasize that we're a front porch community. So keeping that front porch stable, ready, in good repair.
And adorable.
Just adorable.
Like wreaths on the door. A local artist just did a little poster of the doors of Fairport, and it's so adorable. I saw people commenting online like, that's my door, and my door made the cut. And, just so cool to say, wow, someone, that's true. We have some cute doors. And the compilation of it. Yeah.
Posters for sale. Great time for a Christmas gift.
Yeah, there you go.
The Barrington Historical Society. Cool. Check it out. So there's the experience of charm. There's meeting your neighbors. There's the feel of the homes. All of those things go into when we say, what do we mean by charm?
Yeah.
Those are all the ingredients.
Yes. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's stuff we're not even thinking of. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, as a person with a marketing background, I always thought it was really neat that there were some naming nuances that sounded just so like hallmarky, if you will.
Sure.
Packett's Landing.
Right.
This Bridge Lane. I mean, that sounds like where some young girl's going to meet her future husband or something. Like, it's just wild to me how even the names of things and the logo itself for the village of Fairport is, iconic in it's clearly a canal town, and it has it's rooted in history, and there's definitely that charming vibe behind even something like that. So
Definitely. And then another component of charm is not just that it looks great and it feels good. It also is an important economic driver for those small businesses.
Brings people here.
Community. Exactly.
Keeps people here, brings people here, makes people want to be here, whether they live here or visit.
Correct.
Boots on the ground, people walking and patronizing these shops, for sure.
Imagine we talk a lot about small businesses and our boutiques, but imagine you have an office and you have 10 employees and you're looking for a space for them. Would you love that office to be in a village like Fairport where you can walk out the front door, grab lunch, and sit on the canal and watch some boats go by? Don't you think that would attract people?
For sure.
Attract employees.
Or how amazing to get invited for a meeting to, come to me because we'll just grab a coffee out and sit by, Colonial Bell. And you can't do that everywhere. So it's special and unique to us.
You said this earlier, that charm doesn't happen accidentally. So we're going to kind of get into how do we make sure that as we go forward with planning for the future, with building for right now, with moving forward with our DRI projects, when and should that happen, how do we make sure that we are choosing charm along the way?
Yeah. And even just the concept of charm as a series of choices was something that came up in our research for this episode. And I felt like that really hit the nail on the head, that it isn't one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a million things, and they are repeated and continued. So it's okay, we're going to make this choice today. We're going to put that policy in place today. And all those little things add up and keep us on the path that we need to be on to maintain that and protect that charm. And any little misstep, you have to bring it back in. Like, that was a oopsie. We shouldn't have allowed that, and everything in hindsight, you think back. I mean, we have a lot of things that happened during urban renewal that folks would look back now and say, oh, that was a mistake. But,
right.
We can only do what we know best now. And,
right.
And the research, that's out there now, we make decisions based on that.
Right. And those past experience inform people's opinions about new and how do we move forward. So when we talk about making those decisions about how we move forward, I think it's important to talk about who are we making those decisions for? And we've done that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Our residents, we talk about visitors a lot. We are both employees, but we certainly feel like we're part of that everyday Fairport community.
I do.
We go there every day.
Every day. Even on the weekends, we're going in.
Right.
Yeah. There was a big Christmas holiday. Come home for the holidays this past weekend.
Santa arrived.
Yeah, Santa came and the spruce tree was lit, and there were horse-drawn carriage rides. I mean, what's more charming than a horse-drawn carriage ride through the village?
So many social media posts made the comment, a real-life Hallmark
There you go.
movie right in your village. Mm-hmm. So it's important as we're thinking about these decisions that we are making decisions for our long-term residents, for our young adults who want to come home. They left to go pursue their dreams. Now they want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And for our small business owners and our local workforce. So
that reminds me of something we talked about before this episode recording, but it was the concept that there are many groups making choices every day But at the end of the day, those choices all stem from community feedback.
Yes.
What the residents want and what the community wants has to drive the decision making of these various entities. We're not top down, we're community down, if you will.
Exactly. So we have a really engaged community, and that's great. We've heard through the survey that this was really an important focus in everything we do.
Everything.
And from here, I think it's important that we let people know that we do have a number of ways we can address and make sure that we are stewarded. We have a number of ways that we can be sure we're taking charm into account as we move forward. So let's talk about how some of those decisions around charm get made.
Yeah.
And who's making those decisions and how do those decisions impact our day-to-day?
Yeah. So you said most people think the village is in charge of everything. They control everything. And ultimately, that really isn't the case. They are a big part of it, but they're informed by the community and there are opportunities there. I mean, a lot of our village board they're elected, right?
Right, exactly. So
the voice of the people.
They are the voice of the people. But there are decisions that get made at the municipal level.
Yep.
They include not just the day-to-day, workings of the DPW, and even the big projects like the streetscape. They include our draft zoning code, right? That's a big thing happening at the municipal level, driven by the voice of our community, aligned with our character-based code to now take that feedback, take that code and put it into actionable tools for new property development, property owners, and residents as they make design decisions throughout the village.
Yeah, things like what materials you're allowed to use, how many stories you can build. We don't want a big high-rise on Main Street. Those types of guardrails and guidelines are put in place at a municipal level, code level, so that some of those, I like guardrails as a term because I feel like it's the best way to describe it. Like you can veer a little bit either way, but there's some railings in place to say, okay, well, we need to talk about that.
Yes, exactly.
And even then taking a trickle down, it's not just municipalities. Obviously the property owners and developers have choices to make as well. I actually have seen that Fairport offers a lot of smaller suites than I have typically seen for commercial suites for lease, which again is a choice they're making that fosters. Now I'm sure it follows the market, but it also is right in alignment with types of uses we're looking for in Fairport. We're looking to let people have a startup shop or take a gamble on a passion project, like you said earlier, and set them up for success, not for failure. And there are a lot of places where that isn't possible, where the rents just don't allow for that, or the spaces available are way too large and there's just nowhere to go that would accommodate a little sunrising shop or a bakery or a coffee shop. So those are choices made, at a property owner level, a development level. And then it goes down even further to the shop owner themselves. They're contributing to charm, their choices. Like, I'm going to decorate my window every season. It's going to, Mescalada is going to be decked out for Christmas, and then it's going to be decked out for New Year's, and then this, that. And groups like the partnership and the merchants, and they have a sip and shop and all those events. I'm sorry, I'm just going on. I'm excited.
So I want to come back to another point that you made about the intentional offerings of the property owners to have smaller boutique sizes.
That's a big deal.
And part of that brings us to an inclusive approach to charm, right?
Yeah.
And using that by offering a small business suite that really helps from an economic driver perspective. Every business is not going to start out at 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's
They have
true.
to build a customer base. They have to build a following, and they need a platform to be able to do that. And by creating this small business platform actually leads to some really charming little spots to bring it back full circle.
And definite mainstays. We have some businesses here that are iconically Fairport. and they aren't all huge, large corporations. I'm sure that there are folks out there who would say, oh, well, yeah, like the land house and the blind pig. And I go there and, there's some really cute, I won't even call them hidden gems anymore because the word is getting out. But all of those unique shops and establishments were allowed to even exist because there was a path laid out for them.
Yes, a platform for their small business.
Yeah.
So that charming little platform.
I love it.
Great. So let's talk about how do we measure charm? And really, not like we're looking for a charm scorecard, but we want to make sure that we're staying on track.
Yeah.
Kind of back to the guardrails. So
yeah,
let's kind of, bring it back around to we know this is important to our village. We're going to, as we move forward, make sure we keep an eye on it. But how do we know what are the signs that we are doing a good job?
I think just tying into what we just said, the occupancy of our small storefronts, if all of a sudden everybody's going out of business, that's a huge red flag.
Mm-hmm.
We want ribbon cuttings, not shutterings. And we want to see off-season traffic. We want to know that we're drawing more than just the folks that visit us for our amazing festivals. We want them to come here more regularly. We want residents to be served. We want...
Let's just go back to what you just said about the amazing festivals, because everybody knows Fairport as the canal town, the place for the music
fest, canal days. Yeah.
All of even the everyday weekends. I want the hot spot to go.
Yeah.
But we also have a great everyday downtown.
We do.
And that is so critical to our small business owners from a day-to-day.
And the charm. Can't only be charming on the weekends.
You can't be charming on the weekends, but we need that charm to serve those small businesses every day.
Yeah.
And so another indicator of charm is an economic driver that you might come for the fun of the music fest, but you'll come back to bring your girlfriend to dinner at that cute little cafe.
Yeah. Obviously, another measurement, just sales, business sales.
Well, another thing that we talked about was making sure it fits into the village, right? Does it fit our
new things? Yes.
Here's a topic that had a lot of buzz when it came into the village. No pun intended. We have a new Starbucks on our main street.
You're going there. Love
usually, when you see a new Starbucks, it might have a drive-through. It might have a big logo.
Kind of a rectangular shape.
Yeah.
Typical these days.
But for us, and I won't get too deep into all of the fun leading up to that great new Starbucks, but one of the most important things that we were able to do, again, through a municipal perspective, was make sure that building was going to fit into the character of Main Street. And when you look at it, it does.
Yes, and you wouldn't even necessarily look and say that's a Starbucks.
Right.
If you stripped that Starbucks logo off and, heaven forbid, Starbucks doesn't make it, I think they'll be fine. But if they didn't, that building could easily translate and transform into something else. And nobody would bat an eye and say, that's an old Starbucks. So it would be, it's not like the Pizza Huts you see around and oh no. So to your point, man, they really did a nice job making that building fit into the village aesthetic.
Yeah.
And the vibes.
And community feedback was a big part of that. Like, there is no drive-through. That wouldn't fit in.
No.
And that wasn't desirable for our residents.
The front porch is very, it's a patio kind of area with outdoor seating. That's very village of Fairport. Not every Starbucks has that.
It's a great example of using those tools that we've talked about to produce something that brings economic value and is additive to the charm of our village.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and not everyone will agree. I think a lot of folks are hung up on Starbucks, the entity, and not so much Starbucks, the building that got built in Fairport. Right. So I do think it's important to separate those feelings and say, if you didn't like the Starbucks came here, there are a multitude of reasons that you may have agreed or not agreed on a personal level. But at the end of the day, that building that got constructed definitely fits in with Main Street in a way that a typical box Starbucks would not.
Right.
So, taking your feelings aside about do you like Starbucks or not, and looking at the building with just eyes of the building itself, I think those are very separate things.
Yeah. So I really have liked this conversation, and I think it leads us to our next one, and that is housing. So charm is, as we said, not just about the way the village looks, it's about the way it feels. And part of the feels, a huge part of the feels, is the people and the community.
And why people want to be here to begin with. And that's one of the reasons we need more housing.
Exactly. Well, we do want to talk about housing. We want to have the ability to stay in Fairport, and we want that for all types of community members. Like we said, we're designing for everybody. So next up is going to be housing. We're excited to talk about that. Thanks for joining us today. See you next time.